So a software as a service agreement is a software and a licensing delivery model in which software is licensed on a subscription basis, and that's centrally located or centrally hosted rather. A SaaS agreement, as it's known, can also be known as on-demand software or web-based software, any of those things. So this agreement speaks to that, and it's between you, a provider, and you'll state your jurisdiction, and a particular customer. So you're providing software to this particular customer. So you'll see in the recital here that you would be in the business of providing access to this software, which is sought by the customer. So we have a number of definitions here. Important among them is the authorized user, who will be licensed as a user of your software. Confidential information is important. It has its own section, section 6. And you have a number of other definitions here, such as fees, the term, provider IP, and here in clause 2, you have a provision of access. So it'll say subject to payment, usually, or fees, you get a right of access. The customer gets a right of access. Also important that you establish what your use restrictions are. You don't want authorized users to copy or modify or create other works or derivative works of your program. Under those circumstances, you want to be able to temporarily suspend any authorized users' access. It's known as a service suspension, and you will, you need that clause in the event that a customer, for example, reverse engineers your software or copies your software and resells it in violation of the agreement. So customer services, or customer responsibilities rather, is being liable for the uses of the services and documentation resulting from access provided by the customer. They are customers are responsible for acts or omissions of their authorized users, and you can include or exclude this if there are third parties involved. And then if, for example, you're offering different levels of service, or you want to set out a specific service level, you can do that here. You will also want to establish what your fees are for this agreement. What happens if the customer fails to make payment? Usually this is done through Stripe or a similar payment gateway, so it's usually not a problem, but it's in there just in case. There is a clause around auditing rights. So the customer should maintain records, for making use of your software. So this may be in the case if you are operating on a percentage basis. Clause 6 deals with confidential information, and so it's possible that you're going to be sharing confidential information, proprietary information at some point during the agreement, and this clause speaks to the fact that you are to keep that information confidential. There is a clause 7 about intellectual property. ownership, who owns the property, who has rights to the customer data. And typically you would want, if you want access to that data for your analytics, you'd have some sort of non-exclusive perpetual royalty-free license. It's also the case for feedback as well. There are extensive warranties in this agreement for the software provider. So you would want to say that your software is being provided as is, and you're disclaiming, to the extent you can, any liability for any harm caused by your software. In clause 9, you have the indemnification clause. So it's your software. You're to indemnify the customer as a result of making use of your software. And similarly, the customer can indemnify the provider against losses. Here in clause 10, whenever you see bold, it's kind of something to draw your attention to. And this is the limitation of liability clause, where you're attempting to limit your liability for, let's say, breach of contract or tort, for example, to the extent that you can. You have a clause on the term of the agreement, and a clause on termination. When can you, under what conditions can you terminate? Usually it's with written notice for a number of days, or effective immediately if there has been a breach. Clause 12 deals with what's known as an entire agreement clause. Here it's just saying that the document is going to be the sole source of the intention of the party. So you'll start with this document, and that's what you'll use in the event of a dispute. Here you have a governing law clause, so you'll write the province you're located in and the jurisdiction that you want file litigated. And lastly, you are providing for, there's a clause on equitable relief, so that if there is a if there's potential harm or monetary damages may not be adequate, that you are entitled to injunctive relief or restraining order in certain cases. And there's a signature page at the end, and that will be the end of the contract. But here Exhibit A is very important, because you will provide the list of the description of what exactly you're providing, the fees, and this will be incorporated into the agreement, and then the number of authorized users of your software. Again, if you are using different levels of support, you'll write that here, and that is the end of our software as a service agreement.